Robin's with you in the afternoons.
You know what's really wonderful right now? It's Wednesday, Wonderful Wednesday, Wellness Wednesday, all sorts of great things. And it is Wednesday Wellness. I'm here with Jane Ehrman once again. Welcome, Jane.
Hi, how are you, Robin?
I am fantastic. So I'm so glad. Now we've got Jane Ehrman of imagesofwellness.com. And today we're going to be talking about some really cool things. We're talking about our energy, and not just that whole I'm feeling kind of blah, I need some caffeine, but our energy, what affects it, how to protect it, how to avoid being drained by someone else's energy. We've all been there and have felt that, right? You can either get energized by people or drained by people. And did you notice that when you're around some people, you just kind of feel better, more energized, happy, calmer, more upbeat? And then there are those people who seem to drain or just sap us of our energy, and we call those energy vampires. And why is that?
That's a good question. Robin, for one thing, our heart has a magnetic field. It's the strongest magnetic field produced by the body. And this field actually envelops every cell in our body, and it goes outside our body in all directions into the space around us, about 4.5 feet.
So you can see it?
Well, I don't know that you can see it, but you certainly can feel other people. You can sense what's going on with other people and their energy. Our brain only has a magnetic field that's much smaller. The heart's magnetic field is about 100 times greater in strength than the field produced by the brain. So our heart energy is the most powerful.
All right. Well, what does this magnetic field do? We've got this magnetic field around our body. What does it do? So
the energy is related to our thoughts and emotions in this magnetic field. The magnetic field kind of carries that, and it can be felt by others around us. To put simply, we can sense other people's tension oftentimes, or their fear, love, joy, their sadness, and what's going on for them. And so as we do this, we've walked into a room at times or into a situation and sensed what was going on. And maybe it was like, whoa, it doesn't feel really good in here.
Right.
Or sometimes you're in a meeting and everything goes well. Somebody says something and everything goes sideways. And there's this silence while everybody feels like, what happened here? And so
exactly
we're feeling each other's energy. And so that's an important thing to understand and to notice what's happening and what's going on around you, because that affects us.
Okay. So there's some people that are empaths, we've heard. And that means, they feel very strongly. They feel other people's emotions. I've even heard that some of them say it can be really difficult to be an empath. Is there a good way to manage that?
Yes, that's a great question, Robin. Some people who are highly empathic can become overwhelmed by other people's energy or the energy of all kinds of difficult things that are going on in our world. There always have been difficult things going on, but knowing about them and being close to that can cause that uncomfortableness. So while some people are better able to feel other people's energy, it's important to avoid taking in other people's particularly uncomfortable or negative energy. An example is years ago, almost in another lifetime, I taught lifeguarding. And at one point, I would always have the students who were pretending to be the victims in the water and the students who were pretending to be the lifeguards because they were just training in this stuff. Lifeguards, go in there and let the victim grab you. Just let them grab you, because a good lifeguard doesn't let that happen. And of course, they would go down like stones. And they'd come up and I'd say, well, how did that work for you? As a lifeguard, how were you able to manage that? Well, they couldn't. I mean, arms and legs wrapped around, you couldn't do anything. And that's an analogy for what happens when you become overwhelmed by someone else's energy. Now, you can't even use your own strengths and skills to deal with this. So the best thing to do is stay in your energy. Observe what's going on for that person and appreciate and maybe let a little bit of that energy in so you understand what's happening with them and what they're experiencing. And certainly have compassion for them and help them to be, to comfort them, but without taking in all of their energy. When you're caught up in their difficult emotions, you aren't able to be helpful. Stay in your own shoes.
So you can be there for a friend, but you just can't take it in so internally that it becomes too much for you as well.
Right. Then both of you are a mess.
Like you need to put your air mask on first.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how can we do that? Keep from taking in someone else's energy to the point that it just becomes too much and overwhelming?
So we all have our own energy field, as you know. And when people say, well, I don't know if I have my, what do you mean by that? Well, when somebody gets a little too close to you, you notice how you automatically just step back a titch?
Sometimes.
Because they're kind of getting in your space, as we say. Okay, so there's your energy field. Imagine that it's like a cocoon around you. This is your force field. And you can observe what's going on for other people and what they're experiencing, but allow them to keep their own feelings. It's unnecessary for you to be drawn into that stuff. You can choose if and how much to open your energy field to receive that, and that's just by allowing it, or to keep it closed. So the big key here is to observe what's going on for them, what's happening, and how can I help? And maybe it's just by being there and listening as opposed to feeling things with them.
Well, that makes sense. But what about someone who's having just an awesome day? They're just one of those people that is sunshine personified. Someone's really positive, happy energy. Can we take that in?
Of course. Take it in. Enjoy that energy and share it between the two of you or among yourselves if it's more than two people. Absolutely.
So that kind's positive. I mean, you can't have too much of that. It's just the negative stuff that we all go through. There's nothing wrong with having those negative feelings, but if you are internalizing someone else's, it can just become too much, is what you're saying.
Yes.
So we want to be mindful of someone else's energy. What if we're the one in the crabby mood? Because we know that happens. And or we're angry about something and we've been just carrying it all day. What do we want to do then?
Well, other people are able to feel your energy. They're able to sense that things aren't right. And how many times that, you've been kind of crabby pants and maybe you haven't even recognized it, that you've been carrying it all day, and somebody says, are you okay? I mean, like, are you all right? Because you just seem, I don't know, just off.
Yeah.
And that's a cue. Oh, wait a minute. What am I giving off here, energy-wise? And so, that kind of thing can confuse other people. It can take them off focus and off of concentration. It can change their mood. Now they're starting to feel intimidated or worried or insecure because you're acting cool and distant, and they don't know did I do something? That's what happens. And so we're responsible to be aware of what kind of energy we're feeling and radiating. So if you've had a bad day at school or work or whatever, you need to clear it out.
Right. So rather than being offended by the question, maybe use it as a moment of self-reflection and self-examination.
Yes. And if you can step away for a moment, great. But one of the key ways you can do it is to use your breath.
We've talked about breathing before.
Yes. Inhale and gather up that uncomfortable tension. And then purse your lips or just part your lips very subtly and breathe it away from your mouth. When we exhale from the mouth, we're releasing energy more effectively. And so let that stuff go. Imagine it dripping out of your fingertips and toes. Imagine the universe carrying it off and away. And as you shake that off, sometimes, if I'm by myself or on my way to something, I play some good music like the stuff you hear on 99.3.
Nice.
And to clear your energy field and change your mood, you owe it to yourself and to those around you.
Well, that is what we are here for. I've been speaking with Jane Ehrman again. It's always such a treat with Wellness Wednesday. And her website, again, is imagesofwellness.com. You can get so much great information from there. We've talked about some great things in the past few weeks. I love it. It's always so informative. Today, we were talking about being the gatekeeper of your energy. Thanks, Jane. That was so
You're welcome.
interesting. One of those things that we all kind of know about, but it's interesting to put actual scientific terms to. Thanks so much for joining us. Always a treat.
99.3 The Vine is proudly owned and operated locally by Wind Down Media.